Hashem's Vasai Tivtach Upiaki Sacha. We're now in the fourth perek of Yehoshua. And here, as the Bnei Israel are finishing crossing the Yarden, now we get to the spiritual underpinnings of why and how we're going to make this into something bigger than just a miraculous something that gets the Bnei Israel to the other side. So we have to analyze and understand that Hashem is telling Yehoshua to take 12 people, one from each shevet, and instruct them to take 12 stones from exactly in the middle of the Yarden, where the Kohanim's feet are standing, and take it with them. These stones weighed, they were good gazunta stones, and you're going to take it with you when we get to the other side of the Yarden. What's going on, huh? Now, if we go back in history, let's remember, where did we have something with 12 stones before? Remember Yaakov? Yaakov, when he was lying down, and remember that midrash that says that all the stones that were under his head were arguing, I want to be under the tzaddik's head. No, I want to be. And what did Hashem do? He organized all of them into one. Well, if we go back and we understand the midrash, what was Yaakov really asking? He was saying, Hashem, am I going to really be zocha to have? I've had a lot of, I wouldn't say I've had the most nachas from my 12, from anything so far. I've been fighting with Esav. I've got a loving problem. There's like a lot of problems. And b'nevuah, is this really going to happen? Are my children going to ever come together? Am I going to be the father of the 12 shvatim? And what did Hashem do? Hashem organized all of the stones into one to suggest, yes, you will be the one, and the ba'achdus, the Bnei Israel can come ba'achdus. So here, there are 12 stones. And so what is the holy message? So first of all, we have to understand, one from each shevet, which means this miracle can only be included when we have achdus. You have to highlight one from each tribe, not the stronger tribe can take a bunch, the weaker ones won't have to schlep them. No. In order to come into Eretz Yisrael, it's a t'nai, it's a condition. You don't just get Eretz Yisrael. You know when you get Eretz Yisrael? When you come to Achdus and you come to Emunah. And the Emunah part is the part that will is part and parcel of what they're doing. They're walking through. The Emunah part really started on Yetzias Mitzrayim, and the culmination of it is here and now. How do I know this? Well, do we have a yontif of the crossing of the Yarden? No, because the whole idea of Yetzias Mitzrayim and all the way through is the now. It's here. It's the culmination, getting into Eretz Yisrael. And so this is part and parcel of our holiday of Emunah. And we know that when it comes to the holiday of Emunah, what is the key? Well, let's look at the 6th pasuk. Why in the world do I have to schlep the stones? Laman tiyeh zos os bekirbechem ki shalun banechem machar limor mahabonim ha'ila lachem. For the future, because there's going to come a time that your children are going to say, why are these stones, right? We have the same thing with Pesach, right? What's going on here? And so that is going to be the connection of the Mesorah of father to son. And when you're going, what are you going to tell them? Ba'amartem lahem asher Ritu mimei Yarden ipnei Aron bris Hashem. The waters of the Yarden were cut off because of the Hashem's Aron. Va'avro b'Yarden, and when it passed through the Yarden, and the whole miracle. So these stories, these stones are going to be lizikaron l'bnei Yisrael ad olam. They're going to be remembrance forever. What makes Jewish people different than other people is how connected we are to our history. Everything goes back to history. And what is amazing in the time of the period of time where we had open miracles and so much richness, food for thought that we can hold on to, Yetzias Mitzrayim, this is the time. And what's going to happen very soon? They're entering into Eretz Yisrael. What's going to happen in Eretz Yisrael? We've mentioned this before. it's going to be different. Now they're going to have to work for their wheat. They're not going to have the man, the be'er. They're not going to have the amner kavod. So this is they're entering into a new level of emunah. So how do you get to that level of emunah if not to connect to this period of time where we showed emunah? That was the only thing we had. We didn't even have the Torah. We have come from a time where the only thing that we connected to Hashem was with emunah. But Hashem is saying more. He's saying, wait a second, you're going to need to really channel that emunah. That emunah isn't going anywhere unless you bring it. And so to go into Eretz Yisrael, you need to have emunah, you need to bring it, you need to remember your past, and you need achdus, you need unity. You need to come together. And if you have those two things, you can come into Eretz Yisrael. Now it's really interesting. We have this idea of Avram Avinu, right? Why wasn't Avram was just going to be, he was going to be the founder, the father of our nation. Why did he have to go into Eretz Yisrael? Because in Eretz Yisrael, there is a level of holiness in the emunah and in our unity. Our unity in Eretz Yisrael is at its peak. And so Avram had to be in Eretz Yisrael to be able to experience what the children will ultimately get, the level of Kedusha of Eretz Yisrael, which is in the level of connection that we have with Hashem and the level of connection that we have with each other. That is the highest level that we can get is there. And so we're bringing the rocks. Now, where do we get those rocks? You get the rocks before you get in. It's a t'nai, it's a condition. It's not the same. Now, when Vayasu Chaim Bnei Yisrael, Kasher Tziva Yehoshua, they listen and they carry these heavy rocks from the Yarden, just like Hashem, Kasher Diber Hashem El Yehoshua, Lemisbar Shiftei Yisrael, exactly like Hashem said. And now they're starting to Vayavrum Imam El Hamalon Bayinichu Sham, and that's exactly, they are listening to the T. Yehoshua is becoming someone of a leader that they listen to, they revere, they hold on to. Now, just as an aside, Rabbi Rosner mentions a very beautiful and interesting idea. They asked the Lubavitcher Rebbe, why aren't you in Israel? Why are you still here? What's going on? Now, and what did he say? He said that there are two different kinds of leaders. The leaders of the army of the Jewish people always go in front, except for one area. The one area that they don't go in front is with the Navy. Why? Because if a ship is going down, then what happens is the leaders go at the end. They make sure that everybody is out before they save themselves. And he equated that to that's where he's at. I have to save every single Jewish soul before there is, before I can abandon ship and also leave. And I think that the idea here is that Yehoshua is making sure that everything is prepared. And Vayavru Lifnei Ha'aron, that he says, go in front of the Aron. And so a leader goes in front, but sometimes, except when it comes to the water, the leaders go in the back. And that is actually applicable, because what's going to happen is, who hasn't come through yet? The Kohanim, right? So they haven't passed along. The leaders are still in the back. Now, Yehoshua sets up, in addition to those 12 rocks, so he takes the rocks from the west side of the Yarden, and he's going from the first side of the Yarden, and he's going to bring it over into Eretz Yisrael. And those are the rocks. Now, interestingly, he also, that we learn, that he sets up 12 stones in the middle of the Yarden. Right under the feet of the Kohanim that are holding the Aron. And they're there until this day. Why in the world would he do that? That's an added set of stones. And some say that the stones peeked out. What is it about these stones? So a beautiful idea is that the stones represent the difficulty, there are going to be lots of times in life where we feel like the waves of the world are on our shoulders or that are knocking us down. And in the middle of all of that difficulty, Hashem is going to still be there with us. And so Yehoshua is setting up the stones in the middle of the Yarden to suggest that just in the middle, when times are tough and you can't pull it, it's very hard. No, that's the time to hold on, to cling to your emunah, and to understand that no, even then, under your feet, where there's difficulty, stands HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and we remember that, and we hold on. That emunah is what gets us through. Now, the Kohanim who were holding onto the Aron, they are standing in the middle of the Yarden until Hashem tells Yehoshua to tell the people, okay. And so the people cross through, just as Moshe Kasher Tziba Moshe es Yehoshua, Vayimaru ha'am vayabru. So they go through. And when all the people are finished, then the Aron and the Kohanim advance to the head of the people. So how in the world did that happen? So what was interesting is we learned the Aron noses nosab. The Aron was able to carry its people. So the Vayabor Aron Hashem Kohanim Lifnei Ha'am, they end up getting in front of the Am. How does that happen? Because they are able. Now, after that, who else crosses over so they were able because the Aron carried them over to the other side. Remember, the Aron carries everyone, so they made it to the other side. They're easy. That's over. The Reuven, Gad, and half of Menashe, they had to go, just like they had promised Moshe. 40,000 of them go across, because remember, they set up camp on the other side. So why are they crossing over? So they're crossing over again. Isha Chabalev Echad. We're all together, and they are able to because they have to fight. And they promised they would. So 40,000 of them go in order to battle for Yericho. And at that point, by Yomahu, Gidel Hashem es Yehoshua b'nei Kol Yisrael, Yehoshua has proven himself as a real leader. He's taken the initiative. He's telling the people. He's giving them chizuk. He's telling them what to do. And they're believing in him. So everything's working out. They are developing emunah in themselves, emunah in Hashem, and emunah in Yehoshua all at once. Why? Because Yehoshua bucked up and he did what he had to do. The Einei Kol Yisrael, they like leadership. They appreciate the fact that he's doing what he has to do, and he's doing it specifically, proactively by himself. And so after they get through, then Vaya'alu min hayardin, the Kohanim are flown over from the Yarden. Vayitzav Yehoshua Kohanim alu min hayardin, come on out of the Yarden. And that's exactly what happens. They get out, they get onto dry land, and at that point, the waters of the Yarden go back. Remember, it was one big wall, and now they flow as it did before. Why is that significant? Because we've said it's very important that it didn't create a tsunami or something that was going to impact. The miracle here is that it trickled down. It went literally as though nothing had happened from before. That it overflowed. It was flowing exactly as it did before. And that is part and parcel of the miracle. Now, perhaps, I think the idea here is it went back. The water went back. But the people we don't want to be like nature. We don't want to go back exactly. When you experience something that's amazing, you want it to make an impression. You want it to be an impression forever. And maybe that's tied into the next pasuk, because V'ha'am alu min hayarden be'esor lachodesh harishon. And the people came up from the Yarden on the 10th of the first month. Who cares what day they came up from? Really? So they came up on the 10th day of Nisan. Lovely. But maybe here lies the issue, and that is, what else happened on the 10th day of Nisan? You know what else happened on the 10th day of Nisan? The Bnei Yisrael showed emunah in Hashem. When? Well, on the 10th day of Nisan, they tied the god of Mitzrayim to their, they tied to their beds, and they showed that they could do something that was very, very challenging. And that was on one end of this journey. And now, look, they've come full circle. Now they're doing something else on the other side, where they just crossed through the Yarden, and again, they have to show their emunah. It's like that connection. This day is significant because this is an important day of emunah. Now, why don't we have a yontif? Well, because the people, the powers that be that decided on the yontif, there are certain days that are more auspicious for special things happening. The days of Yomim Tovim, you should just know, are days that are mesugal, that there's like a skula for impactful change that could happen to us. It's not just happenstance that Pesach is when it is, or Purim is when it is, or Hanukkah is when it is. It's a mazel. Those days are auspicious. So and because it's powerful, that it can create a lot of change. Here, the 10th day of Nisan, for whatever reason, is not that day. But it's important to know that Yomim Tovim are not just there just for no reason. There really are a skula for major miracle, change, impact. And each yontif has its own reason for why it is so important. But at the end of the day, they take these 12 stones that they took from the Yarden, and those are the stones that they set up in Gilgal. Now, what they're going to do with the stones is, you're going to see, the idea is that they're going to plaster the stones. They're going to write the entirety of the Torah on these stones, and they're going to take these stones to Har Grizim and Har Ebal, the time of brachas and kolos, and that is going to be the important piece that ends up with these stones. Lama'an da'as kol amei haaretz es yad Hashem, that everyone should know. First of all, the other nations should know that da'as Hashem, that Hashem exists. Ki chazakahi. And how mighty Hashem is, and Laman Yeresim es Hashem, and for us to know that Hashem is our God, Kol Hayamim. So what's the difference here? So the other nations, they just have to basically understand Das. They just have to know Hashem. Okay, that's one level of fear, but we have to fear in awe. We have to be in awe of Hashem. We have to internalize. This is our emunah message that is going to go from generation to generation. So it has to be really, really strong. And just one final point, and that is that there are 3 areas that we have, that we believe in our religion, that are significant in our emunah and avodas Hashem. The first is that there's that Torah comes from Shemayim, the Torah. The second is that Hashem is in charge of reward and punishment. And the third is that Hashem controls the world. Now, every time that we did this rock thing, because Moshe had a rock thing, and then Yehoshua has 2 rock things, each one is significant because each one represents one of the parts. When Moshe did it, it was Torah, it was the Torah. So great, so we got the Torah, that Hashem gave us the Torah. And now when Yehoshua did it, the one time that he does it with Schar and Onish, that's Har Grizim and Har Eval. That's when we're given what are the brachas that we're going to get, what are the curses that we're going to get if we do right or if we do wrong. So they're great. So now we set up the rocks for that too. And here, where we have in the middle of the Yarden, those rocks, that is Hashem, you're in charge. Look, oh my goodness, wow, what an amazing miracle that you did. And so these rocks are really representative of the Jewish people's emunah and Hashem, how our religion functions. It functions that Hashem, you gave us the Torah, Hashem, you created the world, and Hashem, you run the world in reward and punishment. So these rocks are really significant. We could have a whole perek on rocks because these rocks represent what we know to be true. We have so many days. We have, in the Torah, in Yom Tifs, but we also have, we have Holocaust Remembrance Day. We have Yom HaAtzmaut. We have all these days that are really important. We even have a remembrance of Kristallnacht. If you think about it, we have a lot of remembrances. Now we have October 7th as our, another found. Why? Because we make it significant. We don't just go through a calendar and say, you know what? Okay, wait now. What it's going to be is going to be. The past is the past. What makes us a nation that can continue to survive even under all circumstances is that we take stock of the days Every day is significant. Every element in our history is significant. And as we always say, if you don't remember history, it ends up repeating itself. And so these are significant moments. These are the moments. And the most significant is that it's for L'Dorenu. It's for our children to remember, to hold on to. Everything that we do is a stone. How we raise our children, what they remember in their homes is a stone that will go on and will carry on. Let's just remember to create the right stones so that those stones are significant in the creation of the Masorah in our families and ultimately of Klal Yisrael.